Hi there. Welcome to all users of CourseBuilder and those of you who are thinking of becoming users of CourseBuilder. This is an update session on some of the new features we've brought in to make this powerful tool for team-based content authoring even more powerful. Sven Schwirlist will be your guide, our most knowledgeable CourseBuilder champion. So I'm going to hand over to Sven now. Sven, I suppose the headline change here is accessibility, making the output from CourseBuilder more accessible to people with disabilities and in particular the visually impaired. Can you tell us a bit about what we've done for them with this release?
Hi John. Yes, this release introduces accessibility as a default supported feature of CourseBuilder. So from CourseBuilder 8.3, which is coming out on the 21st, any content you produce in CourseBuilder will, as a default, be accessible. And by accessible, I mean it will be tab enabled and screen reader enabled. So anything you create will automatically be readable, for instance, for a blind or otherwise visually impaired user will be able to access the content that you produce. The accessibility feature in CourseBuilder 8.3 is all about allowing you to easily create accessible content. So it's an always-on feature. You don't have to do anything to turn on or make a special accessible project or anything. You just create your content and add some extra necessary information where relevant to make content accessible. And we can have a very quick look at how this works. Unfortunately, I can't demonstrate how a screen reader will perform, but we support all of the major screen readers on the major operating systems. So you can use a screen reader on Mac, you can use screen readers on Windows, and we support JAWS, NVDA, in combination with various browsers. One big feature is that this is also supported on mobile devices. So you will have an accessible version that will work with a screen reader on an Android tablet or an iOS tablet, an iPad. So I'll switch to the application and we can have a look at how you add accessibility information. Accessibility information in many ways is adding extra functionality, extra information for instance, visually impaired users. So on a screen like this where you have an image, that image can be an important part of the page, or it can be for decoration purposes only. If it's for decoration only, I can let the screen reader ignore it, but if it is important, I can add accessibility information. So if I add an area label, we support the Y area standard, which is a standard for accessibility, but I can add extra information around the image which will be read by a screen reader. So as simple as that, I've added accessibility information for that image. A user with a screen reader, when watching this screen, can navigate around the page, and basically once he has a focus on that image, this is the text that will be read by the screen reader. At the other end, for instance, this image here is for decoration only, and if I leave the area label blank, that will be ignored by the screen reader. So it's superfluous information, not necessary for a visually impaired user. So we can have a look at how this will look to the end user. As I said initially, I cannot demonstrate the screen reader functionality, but for instance, a big part of accessibility is the ability to allow people with different pointing devices, people who don't use a mouse. Everything should be tab accessible, and I'm now tabbing around the navigation elements of the page step by step, and this is completely automatic. So tab enablement and screen reader support is inherent in CourseBuilder. It's built in, you don't have to think about it. It's automatically just there. Think about filling in the extra information you want to impart to, for instance, visually impaired users. So simple to use, very powerful, and also supported on mobile devices, which is very important today.
Sven, is it just about the screen reader in terms of accessibility, or is there more to accessibility than that within the tool?
There is more to accessibility, and CourseBuilder's powerful capabilities to allow you to style anything, to place content where you need it to be, will enable you to follow the other parts of the accessibility standard. There's a lot of requirements when you talk about accessibility to, for instance, the use of colors or contrast, etc. But that is something that is very much up to you as an author to think about. Today, most or all web browsers have accessibility support. So for instance, you can easily zoom in any web browser to scale up images, to zoom in. For instance, for a visually impaired user, you can set the screen reader into accessibility mode, where you will automatically have high contrast, etc. So as an author, you get a lot of help from standard functionalities built into modern web browsers.
Okay, so another thing that's new in CourseBuilder is the document resource repository. Now, this sounds deeply unsexy, but I know it's a very powerful feature. Can you explain for the listeners now why we at Lumos are so excited about this feature at Lumos?
The document or resource repository may sound very unsexy, but what it allows you to do is basically you can upload any document to be distributed as part of your course package. So even if you run a course offline in the standalone player, you can provide the users with access to procedure documents or sales documents that you need to provide them. They can print it from within the course, they can preview it within the course, and it's a very good way of providing extra information around a course. And in CourseBuilder, you can easily upload and manage documents directly in the media library. That's a big new feature. Of course, free text searchable, but as part of the media library and as part of the overall CourseBuilder language handling system, you can upload multi-language versions of these documents. So you can add a procedure document for your English master version of the course, but you can also upload the German, the Spanish, the French, the Italian version of that document into the media library. And in the course, you provide one link to that course. For instance, click on a button. I'll show you that in a minute. But that one link opens the document in the correct language version. So a user who is taking the course in French will automatically get the French version of the document, while a user doing the course in German will automatically get the German version of the course. So it's a very powerful and very flexible system for providing important extra information, like for instance procedure documents or technical specifications or any other documentation you want to be part of the learning process. I'm going to show you how
the multi-language thing is, sorry to interrupt, sorry.
Yeah.
The multi-language thing is a big thing for people with global organizations and dispersed
Absolutely, absolutely. Just like any other language features in CourseBuilder, the ease of creating and managing translated and localized versions of content is extremely important, and that of course extends also to the document or the resource repository. I'm going to show you how it looks to the end user, and a very simple example. I can go to the media library just to show you that we now have a category called documents, and you can upload almost any format documents here, PDFs, Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, any kind of relevant documents. These documents can be made available for courses. So let's have a look at the CB83 info sheet. Details for this is the master language for this is English. I can tag it to make it more easily searchable, and I can upload multiple language versions of that. So in this case, I have an English version and a German version of this document. And once I've uploaded that into the media library, I can easily make these document resources available from inside the course. You can see here I have 3 different documents made available as resources, and I can now easily create links to those from anywhere inside the course, either as a URL, or I can use a trigger action to create a button that opens the document. So if we have a look at how this works for the end user, in this case I said that I want to provide a document that should be read by the user before they go through the quiz or the test. So in this case I can play the course, and this is what the user will see. I've added a button with a link to open the attached document, and the user will instantly have this. Since I was running the English version of the course, I automatically get the English version of the documentation. If we go back and have a look at the German version of the course, I'll just switch. I hope most people know that you can easily switch between the language versions directly inside the editor. I here have the German version of the course. It hasn't been translated, but just to show how exactly the same course, I've only added one button with one link to the document. When I open the documentation now, I get the German version of the document resource. So that makes handling multiple language versions very, very simple for the author. And just as an example, we've not only added the functionality to add the documentation and open it through a link or a button, a trigger action, but you can also provide a document list. In this case, I'm going to add a document list on a page, but you can of course also add this as part of your skin. Have a button to open the extra information or documents, and you can automatically get a list of all of the documents that you've made available as resources. So the document list component can be used either on pages or as part of the skin to provide it. And you'll note that it automatically handles the language. Since I'm in the German version now, I get the German translation of this. And we can try previewing this. And you can see I now have a list where I can open the various documentation very quickly, very easily.
Marvellous.
Okay.
Thanks for that, Sven. I know there's also a bunch of other new features in this release. Now, CourseBuilder is developing all the time, and we're constantly bringing in new things that, while not in themselves particularly headline grabbing, are useful things that are going to make users' lives easier and further add to the power of an already powerful tool. So can you run us quickly through a few of these?
Yeah. I think the first one I'm going to mention is probably the most requested feature ever, and that is the ability to undo and redo things that you do in the page editor. This is a quality of life improvement for CourseBuilder authors. Absolutely. You can now undo, redo any actions that you perform on a page. So if you delete something by mistake, undo, you will have it back. If that wasn't correct, you can redo the delete, so you have absolute control over the steps that you go through on a page, and I'll show you in a little while. An extra sort of goodie that comes out of this is much improved page recovery functionality. If for any reason there is an issue and you experience a problem with the CourseBuilder editor, you will now automatically be able to recover the page, the last known good version of the page. That's also something that is a big improvement when it comes to authoring quality of life. So if we have a look at this page, I can open it. I'll just go to a different page, by the way. Here. And one of the big things about the undo redo functionality is you can see there's nothing to undo or redo yet. I could add a simple arrow, for instance, like this, and then perform a move operation, and you'll see that I can now undo my actions, and CourseBuilder takes me back step by step, and of course I can also redo this, so I now have absolute control and can easily recover from any sort of minor mistakes I make. Yeah.
And how many undos do you get, so?
The limit now is set at 40, but that can be, we have to find a balance between the amount of data that you're sending and storing locally, both locally and on the servers, but that's a very good balance for now, and it should cover a lot of steps in your authoring process. Okay.
Okay.
Another new functionality that is going to make life more interesting, easier, at least for some, is our improved variable functionalities. CourseBuilder 8.3 introduces the capability to create arithmetic and advanced calculations on multiple variables. That means that you can now do stuff like add multiple variables. Let's say you have different scores for different parts of your course. You can now add them. You can calculate an average. There's a lot of stuff that you're now able to do with variables. Part of this is a new expression editor where you can easily create complex expressions and calculations. And I think we talked about this a few days ago, John, and your question was, what would I use this for? And
yes, exactly, for the non-numerate, such as myself.
Yeah. One of the things that you may want to do is to add, for instance, scoring. that goes outside the automatic scoring that you get inside the quiz, to add an element of scoring throughout your entire course in addition to pure scores from a quiz. And I'll show you an example of that. And if we go to this course, and I have a very simple quiz here with 4 questions, and we can have a look at that. And we have the document page here, and I'll make sure that I don't get 100% perfect score. So I'll go through the 4 questions here, and then I get to my regular sort of quiz feedback page. This is the automated scoring that CourseBuilder does for you when you create a quiz. 4 questions, I answered 3 correctly, I get a score of 75%, which is enough to pass the quiz. In CourseBuilder, you have the ability to add your own feedback. You don't necessarily need to use the standard quiz feedback component. You can actually easily create your own personalized feedback by using variables and text. In this case, I've actually set up a number of variables. So each of these 4 questions gave me a different score when I answered them correct. So some of the questions were worth more points than the others. And just for the example, I've said that, okay, in addition to the actual quiz score, I have bonus points. That could be points scored in other parts of the course that I want to calculate, to use to calculate a total passed, failed, or completed score. So an example of the ability to work on multiple variables is that I can sum those. I now can see that I have 17 points and I have passed. From here, I could, of course, also using a trigger and action, have set the course to be completed or passed. So the advanced use of variables, it isn't very advanced in this example, but a simple thing like this will enable you to create richer scoring, and you'll have a lot more possibilities to create gamification features, for instance.
Thanks, Phil. I get that now. I can see it means you can have a much more sophisticated kind of take on assessment, and obviously that's going to impact on your analytics, which everybody is getting more and more interested in nowadays. Yeah. Okay, conscious of people's time, so should we hurry along to the next one?
Another much requested feature is the ability to print content from inside CourseBuilder. Simple stuff like enabling the student to print a diploma once he's passed the test or has completed the course. And this is a very simple feature that allows the user to print the page as a web page or a graphic. There's some differences between those, but I'll show you this in practice. We'll go to a diploma page. And the big thing is, of course, that you can now set up a print page directly in CourseBuilder. So in this case, I've created a course certificate page, and I've added a simple button with an action that says print diploma. The button will hide itself and then open the print dialog. So for the user to be able to print and get a hard copy sort of course diploma, it's as simple as this, and it opens the print, and I can now easily print this, hang it on my wall, and have a documentation that I've completed the course. Very simple. You can, of course, add any graphics that you'd like. No problems making these diplomas look nicer.
And on the roadmap, in the age of 3D printing, will CourseBuilder also be able to frame the certificate for you? That was a joke, folks.
Yeah, let's see. Let's see. I would assume that would require some advanced setup to be able to print the frame as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks very much. Yeah. And now the next one, something that sounds interesting for me as a lover of Nordic noir television. Got used to watching everything with subtitles, and as the hearing starts to go. So tell us all about this one.
Yeah.
In fact, that looks like a slide. It looks like a frame from a Nordic noir drama.
Yeah, it's not the nicest picture. I'll show you a nicer video. But the ability to create your subtitles directly in CourseBuilder is a much requested feature, because in previous versions of CourseBuilder, you've had the ability to add subtitling. And the way that you would do this is by creating a subtitle file in a different tool, a web VTT file with the time codes and the texts that you need as captions, and then just copy paste it into the subtitle field here. But what CourseBuilder allows you to do now is to do this directly and interactively inside the tool. So this video, I can elect to say edit subtitles. I can of course edit any existing ones, and I can add new ones. The whole idea is that I can watch the video with the subtitling, and once I reach a point where I want to add a subtitle or a caption, I can easily do that directly in CourseBuilder and say, after the selected one, I'm going to insert a new subtitle, and we can have, this is the new caption. And I can of course adjust the time codes. Default is available for 2 seconds, but I could set it to 29 like this, and just apply, and I now have a new subtitle which will appear on screen once the video plays. So if we go to the course, I have a new subtitle. This makes it very fast, very easy to add and modify subtitles.
Marvelous.
Here we have the new caption, and it's as simple as that.
Great stuff. And I know we've also made various changes to the interface, again, that make life easier for users. Perhaps, and I know there's a bunch of these. Perhaps you could talk us through these quickly, Sven, perhaps in less detail.
Yeah, very quickly. I'm not going to show any of these, but we've added a number of sort of quality of life improvements for the authors. So, for instance, in the flow view, you can now drag and drop elements directly from the recycle bin. In the skin editor, you can now easily find any skin by free text searching for it. If you're an author, like for instance the Lumess Bespoke departments, who have a large number of skins, finding out where they are can be a challenge, but you can now directly free text search and find any skin that's available to you. We've also added the feature, one of the things that you'll do a lot of when you're authoring is to copy pages or folders or anything, and in the flow view editor you can now drag copy content, just click on an element, hold Control down and drag to create a copy. It's a simple way of speeding up without having to use keyboard shortcuts or the menu elements. Images can be rotated more than 360 degrees. That sounds weird, but it's actually a useful little feature. For instance, if you want to create an animation in CourseBuilder where something rotates multiple times, you can now use the degree to have an element rotate. We've done some UI improvements, and for instance, the search window that appears with the results when you search for something in the CourseBuilder editor will display the component type. It will be shown with various icons signifying what kind of component the hit is residing inside. We've also updated the user interface for tasks. So when you're working with handling comments made in a review session, for instance, when you open a task that's been assigned on a page in the editor, you will have a new updated, improved UI design for that. And this is more for the specialists, but we've added or improved the customization features when it comes to the standalone player. It now supports a much wider range of styling changes, so you can more easily brand it to your corporate brand guidelines. So those are the smaller things. And of course, we've also made a number of bug fixes, which is part of the A3 release. So that was the minor stuff, John.
Just the minor stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think maybe we'll leave it there. If you have questions, then by all means get in touch with us. If you'd like to advance to the next slide, Sven,
Yeah.
we can show you our URL that you can get in touch with us on. I'm also going to, in a second, add another URL to that, which is the URL of our CB CourseBuilder community.
Yeah, and I would like to encourage everyone to go to the community, read the information there. There's loads of useful tips and tricks. Ask your questions there. We will try to reply as quickly as we can, but there's a lot of useful content available for you on the CourseBuilder community.
Lovely. Thank you everyone today. I hope for users of CourseBuilder that's reassured you how much easier your life is going to become from now on. For those who may be thinking of adopting CourseBuilder, perhaps we've convinced you just a little bit more today that you ought to come over to the good side. So, and thank you very much, Sven, for that very fluent run through today of the new features in CourseBuilder. So thank you very much. Until next time, everybody, build those courses.